decades, India has kept saying that whole of Jammu Kashmir and Ladakh are integral parts of India. But world always labeled PoK and Aksai Chin as disputed, and the maps that were released were not in India's favor, nor the words. But yet, in a single graphic released by US administration, India has gained, Pakistan has lost, and China has been challenged. Because we have to remember that when we are talking about geopolitics, a lot of it is not just dependent on words, it is dependent in the ink which is drawn in form of maps. So these maps are not just visuals, they are the tools of geopolitics which help or which might fail. Hello everyone, welcome to Vajiram and Ravi's Flash News. My name is Shubhangi Singh and today we are going to talk about this particular map that has been released by Trump administration. What is so important about this map? Why it is being called time changing? Why US was on the other side? How come it has flipped? And why it is a problem for Pakistan, but not only Pakistan, China as well. So for that, we have to start with seeing the map itself, that what exactly is the map that has been presented. So when we see the given map here, you will be able to see this is the map that we have of our country, which includes all the integral parts without any territorial disputes, which is the original territory of India. But if you remember, or if you have seen on other pages across internet, or if any other country is putting up map of India, mostly two main regions, we have PoK and then we have Aksai Chin, which are marked in red, or sometimes they are not even included in India. But this has been changed through upload of this particular photo by US administration, because this image is not a random image. This has been released in the framework of India-US trade deal, and this has been released by Trump administration. So one fine morning, we are getting to see that there are no tanks which are moving, there are no big statements which are put out, yet there has been a very important symbol laid out in front of the global landscape. Now, why are we placing so much importance on this is the fact, as I said, these two regions, that is PoK as well as Aksai Chin, they have always been marked disputed, not just by multiple countries across the world, but also by US. And when they have released this particular map, they have departed from that practice. That means they do accept that PoK as well as Aksai Chin are integral parts of India. That means US sides with the actual reality which India has been telling the world for very long, and this absolutely goes against Pakistan's as well as China's view. Now, another important thing that we have to understand about this map, that it has been released with the US-India framework of trade deal that has been recently finalized. If you want to understand more about that trade deal, you can go and watch this particular video of Flash News, in which you will gain a fair clarity that what exactly has unfolded. Now, the reason we are placing so much significance on this particular map is the fact that when we are talking about maps, you have to understand that these are political documents. They are not neutral visuals. Whenever a map and of such huge importance is coming from an economy, a country like US, it holds a lot of weight. And any sort of cartographic recognition, that means recognition of the map, also helps in shaping diplomatic narratives. So if US is part of this narrative, that sets a lot of things at ease, especially for India. Even though this is just about symbolism, there is nothing concrete happening. This is a symbol, but symbolism also remains absolutely powerful in geopolitics. It has a huge impact and it can reshape, retort the narratives that have been already in place. Now, in this context, the most important thing that comes that we need to talk about here, that when we are talking about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and when we are talking about Aksai Chin, why these territories are so sensitive. So when I am talking about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and then Aksai Chin, then you have to understand we are referring to two important areas. Jammu and Kashmir, which is a union territory with legislature, Ladakh, which is a union territory but not with any legislature. And if I have to specify the exact area, You can see the disputed maps which have been made. This is the part of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir which goes into Jammu Kashmir Union Territory as well and is present in Ladakh region as well, and this is the Aksai Chin region. But this is the actual boundary of Indian territory itself. And before this particular release, even US did not include these regions in India's map. They always marked it disputed. This is the first time that we are seeing that US has not marked it disputed. But why such a sensitivity is associated that if US has removed that, this becomes so important for us? So for this context, the first thing that we need to understand that when we are talking about Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, PoK, it has been under Pakistan's control since 1947-48, since Indo-Pakistan war took place back that time, and India has been very consistent in legal claim that this is part of the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, which was ceded to India, and that is why this remains our part. When we talk about Aksai Chin, it has gone under Chinese control after the 1962 war, and it is a very strategically vital corridor for China, and that is why they want it to remain disputed, because it connects Xinjiang and Tibet. And India has very clearly maintained the position that Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh and all parts around it are parts of India. They are integral, they are indisputable, and we will be there for them. And the most problematic part for India here was that most of the global powers, as I said, including US, they did not agree with India. They maintained strategic ambiguity. They labeled these areas as disputed so as to ensure, because they did not want to antagonize Pakistan, they did not want to antagonize China against them. So they decided to not side with what is true, what is real, rather leave it disputed. That is why the maps of these areas have always been very sensitive, especially with the sensitivity associated with this area. Now in this context, when a map has been released by US, that takes away the ambiguity. The strategic ambiguity, which was a tool which was being used by Pakistan and China for their own advantage, that has been taken away, and that is why I say that Pakistan has lost in this context and China has been directly challenged, not just by India but by US. Furthermore, this also brings us to another important dimension around the release of the map, is the fact, why are we saying again and again that this is a strategic win for India? Now, if you want to understand that why are we labeling it as a strategic win, you have to understand that this is an all-around win. It has a diplomatic dimension associated with it. It has a symbolic dimension associated with it, and also a strategic gain is going to come along with it. So when we are looking at these dimensions, for example, when I am saying this particular map brings an implicit endorsement of India's territorial claims by US. Now that's a diplomatic gain. When we are talking about India's long-term position, which has been long held, that gains more weightage, more advantage. That India has always said territory is non-negotiable. So that is a strategic gain. It also reinforces that how, after especially 2019, India has set a different narrative where there has been abrogation of Article 370, there has been creation of a Union Territory of Ladakh, and as I showed you in the given maps, this also clearly lays down that India is not just talking about a narrative, India is putting that narrative into action as well. Furthermore, we have also seen when we are calling it a strategic win, it comes with a strategic gain that in coming times when India is going to sit for border dispute negotiations, India will have a very strong hand there. Whenever we are talking about international opinion, in that India will have a very strong hand with this symbolic reference that has come from US. And especially from India and US's perspective in such a chaotic time, this is not just a trust symbol. It is a symbol of trust beyond trade, trust beyond needs and trust beyond economics, which is a wholesome strategic convergence for India. That is why it is a strategic win for India. And this is where we go ahead and understand that why is this a loss for Pakistan. Because Pakistan has been driving the opposite narrative. Pakistan for the longest time has wanted to internationalize the Kashmir issue. They have always portrayed PoK as a disputed territory, and their whole strategy around this is undermined directly by this US map, because this is clearly showing that the Gilgit-Baltistan region, that is labeled as PoK, is unequivocally inside India. That means part of India. That means Pakistan will have a clearly reduced diplomatic leverage whenever they are trying to raise this at global forums, because US has withdrawn its hand from helping Pakistan, especially on the narrative set on the tones of Kashmir. And this is also an advantage for India, because India has always said that whatever are the territorial disputes, we wouldn't want a third party to enter it. So India has a leverage, India has a backhand to it, but nobody is going to enter this dispute. And when Pakistan wanted international forums, multiple countries to come into it, that has also been closed. And that is why there will be no third party mediation expected. That means nothing sits in the favor of Pakistan anymore. Another important factor that comes in for here, that China is being challenged in this situation as well. It is not just about Indo-Chinese situation, it is also about the US-China rivalry. So US is getting double gain with siding with India. It not only shows that US and India's partnership stands strong, but US is ready to challenge China's narratives as well. So in this context, when we are talking about Aksai Chin region, China has for the longest time claimed that Aksai Chin is based on effective control. And because as of now this particular part is in control of China, they say there is no Indian claim which is valid on that. But India has always claimed that part of Ladakh, and when US map has included that part in India, that means USA is siding with India's claim. So whenever we will be talking about LAC, whenever we will be talking about US-China strategic rivalry, this symbolic pressure would be a added thing. And that also reinforces that US's support is right with us when we are looking to find a balance in the Indo-Pacific region. And this is a move in the grey zone warfare. The grey zone warfare where China loves to stand, where China decides not to attack you directly but operate on the verge, be it through cyber warfare, be it through other means. And this is also such a move because this is not a military move, but narrative setting, but only norm setting through maps. And this will directly facilitate India to bring more legitimacy to what has been the truth from their end, and that will definitely help in bringing more legitimacy in terms of our territorial boundaries itself. So for Pakistan, it might be just a symbolic setback because the Kashmir issue will not be open at the international forum anymore. It is not going to be a question anymore. And when Pakistan is so much dependent, it is so much fragile in terms of economy, diplomatically as well as politically, in this time, it's a huge setback. But for China, it is not just a setback, it is a challenge that US is gathering up partners and India is standing strong in the Indo-Pacific region. India is not going to lie low, and this is another example that how global cooperation can do a lot to change the regional dynamics, especially when we are talking about South Asia in this context. Now, when we are addressing the three main parties, India, Pakistan and China, it only seems fair that we look towards US as well. That why now? Why US decided to flip the script immediately after signing a trade deal? Does US want more? what are the causes behind it, that become very important, especially given the fact that as of now, US does not seem solid. There have been multiple incidents where we have seen a flip here and a flip there. So in this context, it becomes a very important factor to understand the causes that why US is doing this now. What is the strategic calculation that they have in mind, especially behind this move? So first is the trade and economic reset that US-India trade deal has brought in. As of now, this map, as we know, has been released with India-US trade framework. This is also a place where we get to see a symbolic concession so that the strategic partnership remains solid and also secure. Furthermore, US does recognize that India is a very important factor in the regional dynamics. If you want a China plus one alternative, India is the option. If you want to gain some counterbalance in South Asia against China, India is the option. India is rising, India is roaring, and that is the time to put your bets. So it is a wise decision from US's thought that we need to align the narrative, that we stand with India, and that will strengthen that alignment. Furthermore, in the recent times, yes, we might have seen certain closeness between US and Pakistan, but we have to understand the position from where Pakistan is coming. It has very limited things to offer. And when US is looking towards only making America great again, Pakistan does not seem like the best partnership. So Pakistan has not been central to US's regional strategy for the longest time. US only decides to move towards Pakistan, probably to get advantages, but there are no advantages left. And furthermore, to top it off, you also have to look inside US, because it is having a very strong stance, especially against China. So anything that goes against China favors US, the internal domestic politics, and any particular party, any particular president would want the domestic waves to be in their favor. So it is not that US has done a favor to India. This is a very strategically timed thing that US also wants to use in its favor, and that is why this is a calculated signaling, calculated move made from US's end. Now, when we are talking about this particular map, I would like to clarify that this map is not a treaty or legal recognition. It does not change the ground realities, and it is not ending any disputes. But it is a heavy diplomatic signaling. Yes, it is going to set a narrative alignment. Yes, and it has brought a strategic reassurance. So from the perspective of international relations, where we do talk about permanent interest, in that context, the symbols are very important, because these are the indications that are present before any policy change. Now, in this context, I will want to conclude on a very important dimension here, which also needs to be addressed, that how maps are significant in geopolitics. So when we are talking about maps, we have to understand that maps are instrument of power. Whenever Nepal wants to show some power, they will include the disputed areas in their map. Whenever Bangladesh wants to talk about Greater Bangladesh, move the sentiments in the domestic politics, they will put up a map here and there. So you have to understand the kind of psychological play maps do with the global landscape and also the internal politics which are present. So in this context, we yet again get to see that geopolitics is not just about war, it is not just about borders, it is fought in means you can't think of, and it is fought beyond borders as well. It also brings us to think that how narratives are shaped through visuals. The more you will see, the more you will recognize that as the reality. And that is why through this episode, we have got clarity on two major things, that India remains very central to US in the regional strategy of South Asia, and also US is very comfortable in confident power asserting in terms of territorial integrity of India. As a result, Pakistan has been left out in cold in terms of international crime it has been doing. China has got a clear resistance, and that puts again the fact in front of us that when we are talking about modern geopolitics, even something as simple as a map can change the power game, can change the power definition, and we need to recognize that power of cartography and the effects that come along with it. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comment section. That was all from my side. Thank you so much.